He always comes back when you're finally healing. Not when you're broken. Not when you're begging. Not when you're wide open and ready to give. He comes back when the pieces of you are starting to rearrange into someone new. When your eye no longer search for his kiss, when your silence no longer aches for his reply. And the irony is cruel, because when you needed him most, when your chest was heavy with unanswered questions, when your body still remembered his hands, when your mind ran in loops around the things he never said, he wasn't there. He vanished into his married world, his routine, his responsibilities, his fear. But now, here he is again, knocking on the door he once walked away from, and not with an apology, not with clarity, but with that same quiet energy, that same magnetic pull, that same look that says everything and nothing all at once. Why does he return when you're healing? Because that's when he feels it. That's when your energy shifts. That's when you stop reaching. When your soul starts pulling its threads back inward, that's when he senses something slipping. And even if he doesn't understand it fully, his body does. His instincts do. Carl Jung said that what we repress doesn't disappear. It grows in the shadow. And the love he repressed, the desire he silenced, the connection he denied, it didn't dissolve. It waited, quietly, patiently, until the day it rose again, not in his mind, but in his hunger, in his restlessness. In the moments his wife's voice fades and yours resurfaces in the silence. You feel it too, don't you? That eerie timing. That strange moment when you finally start to laugh without guilt. When your mornings feel lighter. When your reflection starts to look like someone you remember. And that's exactly when his name pops up again. In your inbox, your dreams, your energy field. It's not coincidence. It's a dance, a psychic tether, an energetic loop that you didn't create but were pulled into, because here's the truth no one tells you. Healing yourself shifts the power. It breaks the contract of silent longing. It dissolves the role you were playing, the one where he was the silent God you waited for, hoped for, ached for. And when you release that role, when you stop trying to prove your worth, when you stop offering love to someone unavailable, you become unavailable to his control. That's what he feels. That loss of control, that loss of access, that loss of your emotional devotion. He might not say it out loud, but the moment he feels your soul slipping out of his grip, he panics, quietly, internally, deeply. So he comes back, not because he's ready, not because he's changed, but because he wants to know if he still lives inside you. He wants to know if your heart still flinches when you hear his voice, if your body still remembers, if your breath still catches, if you still feel his absence the way you used to. Because if you do, then he's not truly lost you. And that matters more than he'll ever say. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through timing, through patterns, through the return of things we thought we buried. This is one of those returns. Not a reunion, a reminder, a test. And it's tempting, isn't it, to open that door again, to let him back into the space he once abandoned, because part of you still remembers the feeling of being seen, desired, chosen, even if only in moments. But what if your healing isn't the end of the story, but the start of your power? What if the reason he comes back now is not to reconnect, but to confirm whether your light still burns for him, whether you're still emotionally accessible, whether you're still unconsciously waiting for what will never fully arrive? Because a man who left, you're broken, is not the man who will hold you whole. And if he only wants you in your healing, it's not love, it's need, it's tethering, it's his shadow searching for what his conscious life denies him. There's something sacred about the woman who no longer needs to explain her pain, who no longer texts long paragraphs, who no longer performs her worth for crumbs of attention. You've become that woman now, the one who turned her ache into awareness, the one who learned to breathe without his presence, the one who stopped being available for half-love. So when he shows up again, and he will, ask yourself, is he reaching for you, or reaching for the part of you that used to reach for him? Because a man returning in your healing is not always a miracle. Sometimes it's a mirror of how far you've come, of how much you've changed, of how powerful your silence has become. And sometimes the real closure isn't his apology. It's your no, your stillness, your refusal to reopen a wound you spent months trying to close. You don't owe him an answer, not anymore, you see. The more you reclaim your energy, the more he feels the absence of doesn't always understand it logically. He might not sit in his living room and think, she's healing now, I should reach out. But something stirs in him, something subtle and deep, something that whispers to his nervous system, She's no longer carrying your weight. And that's terrifying for a man who is never brave enough to carry his own emotions. You became his emotional home, even if he never said it. You held space for the parts of him he couldn't express. You saw what he tried to hide, and in doing so, you offered him a kind of intimacy he couldn't find anywhere else. Not even in the marriage he chose. That kind of intimacy doesn't vanish, it stays. It lingers in the corners of his thoughts, it colors his dreams. It moves through his memories like a soft echo. But here's the truth. You are not a safe haven for a man who only visits when he's drowning. You are not an emotional rescue station. You are not a reminder of what he lost. You are a whole woman now. And whole women do not let themselves be revisited. They are chosen. The more you rise, the more you pull your worth back into your bones. The more you become untouchable to the old versions of him. He comes back hoping to find the woman who once gave him everything. But instead, he meets someone new. Someone still soft, still open-hearted, but no longer available for half-truths, stolen glances, or secret longings. That's when he truly realizes what he lost, because real loss doesn't happen when you walk away. It happens when you rise, when you glow without him, when you no longer flinch at his silence, when your peace is louder than your disarray. Maybe he won't say it. Maybe he'll just send a simple message, a subtle like, a casual check-in. But underneath that small gesture is a wave of realization. He didn't just lose a woman, he lost his reflection. He lost the only person who saw him, really saw him, without judgment, without demand, without agenda. But just because you once loved him purely doesn't mean you have to invite him back. Here, healing is sacred, your peace is priceless. Your evolution is not an invitation for the past to revisit you. Carl Jung believed that our deepest growth comes not from being chosen, but from choosing ourselves again and again, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when someone we once loved comes knocking at the door of our transformations. If he returns when you're healing, know this: it's not a sign that he's ready, it's a sign that you are ready to move forward, ready to close the door gently, ready to no longer need the love that once felt like survival, because now you are choosing something deeper, not just love, but alignment, not just connection, but peace. And nothing is more powerful than a woman who knows the difference. Before we go deeper, here is something that may shift the way you see all of this. If you were ever the woman he could not forget, even after he chose another life, the Jung Method shows why your energy stayed with him and how to finally take it back. The link is pinned in the first comment. He keeps coming back because something inside him never left. Not really. Even when he tried to convince himself he made the right decision, even when he buried himself in routine, even when he smiled beside his wife, took family pictures, celebrated anniversaries, you lived somewhere in the silence between those moments, and he knows it. There is a reason why the image of you does not fade, even when the reality of his life demands that it should. Because some women awaken something in a man that cannot be undone. It is not about sex, not about thrill. It is about recognition. A part of him felt more alive with you, not safer, not more stable, but alive. That is what the married man remembers. That is what keeps him circling back. Not because he is ready for a new life, but because he is starving in the one he chose. He does not always know how to name that hunger, but it shows in how he texts you late at night, in how he checks in with vague excuses, in how he remembers tiny details about you that even you forgot, in how his energy lingers after he leaves, like a scent that never fades. And here you are, torn between the echo of something that once made your soul burn and the reality of your worth now. The woman you are becoming no longer waits, no longer shrinks, no longer aches in silence. But there is still a part of you that wonders, why now? Why me? Why cannot he just let go? Because his soul registered something real, something sacred, and in the stillness of his married life, your essence became the contrast. He returns, not for answers, but to feel again, to touch the thing that once made him feel seen, to borrow your light when his own life is dimmed. It is cruel, because you gave him all of that before, freely, fully, with hope, and he left it behind. Now, he returns like a man who has been starving for water in a desert he chose to walk into. But this time, your well is not open to the same thirst. You have learned that longing is not love, that being remembered is not the same as being chosen, that missing someone is not the same as making room for them in your future. He wants the version of you that was still waiting, but that woman is gone. You buried her with every unanswered message, with every tear you cried alone, with every The moment you realized he would never be fully yours, no matter how deeply he felt. What is left now is a woman who knows her energy is not a convenience, not a secret, not a relief from his reality, but a force, sacred, rare, and not available to the unready. He does not come back for you. He comes back for how he felt with you. And that is a key distinction, because if he truly came back for you, he would bring action, clarity, sacrifice, not crumbs, not confusion, not subtle seduction masked as fate. He wants to know if he still has a place in your spirit, because that place once gave him oxygen, and now that you have withdrawn it, he is gasping quietly. He will not say it, but you will feel it, in the way he lingers, in the way he tries to reconnect through nostalgia, in the way he subtly tests the waters. But you have changed. You no longer offer sanctuary to a man who will not choose to stay. You no longer feel flattered by attention that comes without devotion, because the most dangerous illusion is the one where a man gives you everything but his commitment. And the married man, especially the one who returns, is a master of that illusion. He does not want to disrupt his life. He wants to feel alive again, for a moment, through you. But you are no longer a moment. You are a whole season, a whole world, and that cannot be visited on borrowed time. When a woman begins to heal, she becomes less interested in potential and more invested in peace. She stops replaying old memories like lullabies. She stops looking for signs. She stops romanticizing pain, because she has tasted her own wholeness now. And no man, no matter how magnetic, is worth sacrificing that for. He will come back. He already has, in thought, in energy, in action. But now, you see clearly. You see the gap between desire and decision. You see that longing without action is not love. It is leakage, and you are no longer a woman who leaks her energy into broken vessels. You remember the nights you stayed awake trying to understand his silence. The days you waited for a message that never came. The moments you doubted your worth, because a man who felt deeply chose to stay absent. And now that same man wants to return, to the space you rebuilt, to the heart you mended, to the peace you earned. But he does not get to return just because he remembers. He does not get to re-enter just because he regrets. He does not get to taste the fruit of your healing when he did not help you plant the seeds. This is the reckoning, the moment where you choose yourself fully, not because you are bitter, but because you are awake. Awake to how much you gave, awake to how little he risked, awake to how deeply you needed someone to choose you openly, not in secret, not in shadows, not in moments of weakness. He is married, he made a choice, and now, so have you. You choose your peace over his confusion. You choose your future over his return. You choose your light over his shadow, and that is not loss, that is liberation. You are not the woman he returns to. You are the woman who rises and keeps walking, even when he calls your name, because some doors are not meant to be reopened. Some love stories are not meant to be rewritten. Some closures come in the form of your silence. So if he reaches out, pause, feel everything. Then remember who you have become. You are no longer waiting for him to choose you. You already have . And that is everything. Asterisk, you no longer seek answers from the same place that gave you confusion. You no longer open your soul to someone who only shows up when his world grows quiet, because you finally understand the truth that took so long to accept. A man can feel you deeply and still not be ready. A man can desire your energy and still choose stability over passion. A man can long for your presence and still remain loyal to his absence. This is where your power lives now. In the choice to see clearly. In the decision to not let desire override reality. In the courage to know that just because he returns, it does not mean he belongs. You have become too sacred to be someone's escape. Too full to shrink again. Too aware to confuse emotion with intention. You are not the storm he visits to feel alive. You are the sun that rises when he is no longer around. The healing you built was not for him. It was for you. And now, everything about you glows with the knowing that you are no longer the woman who waits for someone to remember her worth. You are the woman who lives it. He will always remember you. In quiet moments, in restless nights, in the parts of his life where nothing quite compares. But you will remember something greater. The moment you chose yourself, fully, without apology, without delay. And that moment is your freedom.